The courtroom was hushed as the bailiff called out the name, but the man who stood up didn't look like anyone you'd expect to be in trouble. He was well dressed, with a neatly combed hair and a calm demeanor. His name was Frederick Pro, but he went by Pierrot. The judge, a stern-looking figure in a black robe, peered over his glasses at Pierrot, who was there to ask for a reduction in his bail. Pierrot lawyer, a sharp-tongued man with a quick wit, had just finished arguing that Pierrot was a man of substance. He told the court about Pierrot's long career with the Bud Company in Philadelphia, where he worked for 10 years, rising to the position of vice president of the Metroliner Service Project. He also mentioned Pierrot's two businesses, the Trident Consortium in New York City and IPC, a company based in Orlando, Florida, which specialized in photographing military recruits. But the judge's eyes narrowed as he heard about the FBI investigation into the Trident Consortium. It was a red flag, a sign that Pierrot business dealings might not be as clean as they seemed. The judge also learned that Pierrot had a medical condition, something called prephlebitis, which made it difficult for him to stand for long periods. The FBI had even seized $10,460 from Pierrot, money that his company in Orlando had sent him. Despite these complications, Pierrot's lawyer argued that his client was a veteran who had served in the armed forces from 1946 to 1947 and had received an honorable discharge. He had even studied for the priesthood at St. Charles Seminary in Pennsylvania, though he never became a priest. The judge listened to all of this, weighing the evidence carefully. After a moment, he ruled that Pierrot's bail would be reduced from $100,000 to $75,000. Pierrot had already posted $15,000, but he would need to provide another $10,000 before he could leave Memphis. The judge also said that Pierrot could use the money seized by the FBI, if it was indeed his, to help meet the bail. "Mr. Pro," the judge said, his voice firm, "you will be required to post another $25,000 in 6 weeks. Your passport will be retained by the U.S. government, and you must give 5 days' notice if you plan to travel to Florida. While in Florida, you must stay within a 50-mile radius of Orlando, the site of your business. You are allowed to travel in the southern and eastern districts of New York and come to the western district of Tennessee when required by the court." Pierrot nodded, his expression calm but determined. He knew that the road ahead was going to be tough, but he was ready to face it. As Pierrot left the courtroom, the whispers began. People were curious about this man who seemed to have so many layers. Who was he really? A successful businessman, a veteran, a former seminary student, or something more? The story of Pierrot was just beginning, and it was a story that would lead to places no one could have imagined. The story of the 1955 Chevrolet Corvette that was supposed to belong to Elvis Presley is a tale of dreams, deception, and the allure of fame. It all started in 1978, when a man named bought the Corvette at an auction in Atlantic City, New Jersey. He paid $17,500 for it, believing it was once owned by the king of rock and roll. The seller showed him a bill of sale that looked authentic, claiming Elvis had bought the car in 1955. Kept the car for a year, showing it off at a car show in Philadelphia, but not making any changes to it. He then sold it to another enthusiast from Olween, Iowa. For $34,000, was excited to own a piece of Elvis history, but things took a turn when he received letters from Corvette fans. They told him that the car couldn't have been Elvis's because it had features that weren't available in 1955, like a 3-speed transmission and a special radio. This raised a lot of questions. The FBI got involved to see if anyone had been tricked. They talked to several people who had owned the car before, including a man from New Jersey who said he had no idea about Elvis and just sold it as a regular vintage car. Another owner from New York had the bill of sale but wasn't sure if it was real. The FBI also checked with Chevrolet and found that the features on the car were possible in 1955. But when they looked at Elvis's car records, they found no evidence that he ever owned a Corvette. Even Elvis's insurance company and family members said they didn't think he ever bought one. The FBI couldn't prove that the bill of sale was fake, and without solid proof, they couldn't say if anyone had committed fraud. So the case was closed, and the mystery of the Elvis Presley Corvette remained unsolved. This story shows how fame can create a world of its own, where people are willing to pay a lot of money for a piece of history, even if the truth is hard to find. It's a reminder that sometimes the stories we tell ourselves are more important than the facts. The price of status and fame can be high, but it's a price many are willing to pay for a little bit of magic.